Well, I think one of the things that Bruce raised in introducing you, Sister Sheila, is the uniqueness of your charism, being a Franciscan sister that's connected with the Sacred Heart. You know, my schooling was with the Daughters of Our Lady of the Sacred Heart at Ecology in Bentley in Melbourne. And so that's a big part of, I guess, the way I live my faith. And I love the Franciscans' work in the world, and have been connecting with the Franciscans, of course, a lot in Australia over these many years, particularly when I was with Catholic Earth Care. Would you like to just give us a little bit of a sense of your charism and what it's about for you?
Well, I think we're very excited with Pope Francis because our charism has come alive in many ways that we would not anticipate being able to share, particularly with Laudato Si, coming from the prayer itself of Saint Francis, and Fratelli Tutti, how Francis addressed his friars, but also included all of us, in terms of the Franciscan family. So choosing Saint Francis as the patron saint of ecology, which means the uniting of the care of the earth and the care of the poor in a way that we really want to present that to the world. And our St. Francis would walk through the streets and say, he's preached the gospel. And he tells us to preach the gospel always, only use words if necessary. So we have that sense of needing to pull together our very being to express who we are and how to engage others, in that process. He also gets on us about being dour. More people are going to be included in your message if you invite them in a joyful way. So is that interconnection of the personal conversion, the invitation, and to knowing that all needs to be well if we're all in this together. So actually, the patron saint of ecology, with a Pope who is a Jesuit, who himself is able to take that in another way in terms of a leadership, bringing it through in a systematic way, in a way that can really embellish the charismatic way that St. Francis would preach the message. So nonviolence is key. We have an earth that's dealing with violence, so we need to have peace. We need to approach that in a very, very important way. Thank you.
Thanks, Sister Sheila. And that's great. I think, when we think about the integration of this, as you say, to really, pull it together and live it in who we are and what we're doing. The call to this Laudato Si Action Platform, which is an invitation to everyone, whatever sector of life, and in fact, no matter what sector of the 7 we fall into, there's actually overlaps. We're individuals, and we're part of families, and we're part of parishes, and we're part of different institutions. So the 7 sectors really means that we can engage with this platform from wherever we are. It is for everybody. But would you like to say a little bit about your role with the Laudato Si Action Platform to start with, before we unpack a bit about that? Because we've got distinct roles as well, haven't we?
Yes, we end up with many roles, as we move along in this platform. So I would say my major role is networking, trying to pull all of this together and help people integrate that message, and to really respect where people are at this moment. So we need to work differently with the men's group and the women's groups. So for example, in 2019, the women's group that were gathered in Rome, the 850 of the leaderships, were able to accept by acclamation the commitment for care of the earth, care of the poor, personal and communal conversion to be instruments of hope in the heart of the world. And we had been working on that throughout that year, because it was endorsed by the board for UISG. Initially, this was endorsed by the commission, which is for both USG, UISG. So moving at a different pace, in February, the USG Advisory Council accepted the Laudato Si Action Platform and moving that forward. So and the coordination through Sowing Hope for the Planet. So that's been a major moved to find us working together and to be able to invite men and women religious, with the leadership there. So what we've also done with Sowing Hope for the Planet is we say this is for all the religious and for all your connections. So it's an interactive website. There's all kinds of resources. We have videos. We have practically every other month. So they're an engagement in terms of education. We have a brother, a Camboni brother, Brother Alberto, who has 18 years teaching transitional action. So he's helped us really pull together in a very systematic way our way forward, which we say is built on the charisms of each of the congregations and in a way that we're able to reevaluate our ministries going forward. So the connection then from this group also allows us to work with a working group for religious men and women and a special group that kind of looks at some of the information, looking at the Laudato Si Action Platform, the advisory board that helps really try to develop it in ways based on some of the difficult areas. And then the Ecology, which puts it all together. So I just said to you many things. In 1 month, there are 6 meetings that I need to attend to, along with all of the responses that I need to those who are involved in the platform. To put this together, I mean, this cannot be a way of life for me, but it is a way of trying to say this is urgent. This is the first time in our Catholic history that we are pulling together all of the sectors in a platform that wants to deal with encouragement and support on our universal pilgrimage in light of a synodality process, which involves your grassroots and all of the different levels in a decision-making way that reflects the lives that we live. So that's what I try to do. And many of those who are working are associated with me and all these groups that I just mentioned. We're trying to create that tipping point for change because we believe it has to happen. Otherwise, we're in for terrible consequences. So that's the role that I play. But a messenger of hope, this is possible. We can do this and we can do it together. So that's
Thanks.
it.
That's awesome, Sister Sheila. And you're absolutely right when you say that, this is a unique moment in time. It is urgent.
Yes.
And it's worth reflecting on the fact that Laudato Si came out in 2015. We're nearly at the 7-year mark. This moment is unique because also never in the history of the Catholic Church, so we're 2,000 year span, has there been an implementation of a teaching of an encyclical before. This has never happened. We're doing something very different as church to have a Vatican-led implementation initiative that calls everybody to move forward with a 7-year perspective on the shift. It's not just a formation moment. It's not just a teaching tool to sort of guide people in a spiritual way. It's a whole embrace. As John was saying, it's a cultural change that we're called to safeguard our future, to safeguard the creation on the planet. And I think that's so unique in itself. So it takes time for us to plan, to even wrap ourselves around that concept of pulling together to do this. And obviously 7 years sounds like a long time, but when you think about the first year of this plan, it's really just getting ready, isn't it? It's the warming up period, preparing to take everybody on board. So as you say, you've just been working at that, multiple levels just to get the commitment there, just to get the declarations drafted and agreed to.
Right.
So all those resources of preparation are well prepared. There's wonderful resources on your website, Sowing Hope for the Future. And I've been watching that grow from its inception. How many years is it now that it's been going?
Well, it only started in 2018. So it's about 3.
3
4
years.
years,
So
3
from
years.
a very humble website beginning, and I remember you saying, oh, this is just a small contribution, Jacqui. And I thought, let's see what happens. It's now this absolutely, comprehensive offering to religious all around the world, no matter what the charism, no matter where we're at,
Right.
with justice, with peace work, with social justice as a focus, bringing and interweaving this with an integral ecological framing. So well done on those 3 years of incredible work of partnership. I was watching one of the presentations that Laurie Brink delivered, and I thought they were exceptional. 2 parts, and you can go and look up these wonderful resources, and I'd encourage Bruce and the team here to have a look at Sowing Hope for the Future, because there may well be just the thing that you're needing to look at yourself, but also to share amongst the Redemptorists in terms of opening up the minds and the heart spaces, the spiritual reflections, and the depth of what this is calling to before getting into the practical. Because really that spiritual journey is the vehicle, isn't it, for this whole story. And I think the religious in the world that are going on this journey are actually plumbing the depths of Laudato Si in ways that every other sector needs. So, it's just the beginning, but I'm already picking up on the riches of the harvest that you're working on. So great work. Perhaps we should have a little chat about the Laudato Si platform in terms of its structure now. When we think back over these last few years, we had the Laudato Si special anniversary year a few years ago, and that year was marking, I think, 5 years since Laudato Si had come along. And it was a reflection time pre-COVID, actually, as well. And then COVID hit, and it became a moment where the Laudato Si goals were announced, and we've got 7 of those. Do you want to say a few words about those goals and how, as religious, you've been connecting with those, you've been helping unpack those, and the ones that are really connecting at the moment for religious groups?
Well, let me just say, as Redemptorists, you have a special calling with morality. And Pope Francis has put this idea of ecology as a moral issue for us to address. So taking your charism, which is vital to this whole process, and having that be a contribution to what it is that we're trying to do. So as we embark on the 7 goals, we ask all of the congregations to look at your charism and how you've been living it, and then taking that charism as your lens out of how you then begin to actualize these 7 goals. Okay, so the 2 at the top, really the care of the earth and the care of the poor, kind of are overarching on all of the goals. So you're kind of looking at how you deal with the environment, some of the renewable energies, carbon footprint, and the earth. And then when you look at the care of the poor, who are those that are on the fringes? And how are you involving them? And how are you helping them with their voice, in terms of a need to be receptive to them in our environment? We want to say then underlying all of that is the 7th goal, which deals with the networking resiliency in the community. So we're saying, okay, we're going to have personal and communal conversion, but then we need to branch ourselves out to the local communities to see what things we need to be doing together, and that we can raise up. Particularly resiliency actually was added to the goals because of the intervention in the positive way from the group from Oceania. So it's not just about networking, it's about helping you be survivors and look at the goods that you're able to offer. So that's an important goal for us to see. Now the drivers now are coming from the ecology piece. So the ecology of the economy and simple lifestyle. We have to be able to say this in a way that has the resources to carry it through. So we need to look at the money. Are we going to be divesting? Are we giving the money to alternative energies? Who are we helping with these resources? And then our own lifestyle, that plastic's all over the place. Or where are we buying some fair trade? What are we doing about the energy sources, the lights, whatever? So we're really kind of going to the grassroots piece, the personal way. How can we commit it? But that's a driver. And so then we look at how can we bring about change? Well, we have to have education, spirituality. We have to honor the cultures out of which we intersect with each other. So that's what Pope Francis says. For change, we need education and inspiration to carry us forward. And so these are all interconnected, in many ways. So we have things going on for composting, and we have little villages for the animals to take care of, and we're rejuvenating prairies, and we're looking after the prisoners, the prisoners who are in jail, maybe 2-3 years. I know we had a report from your area, and their cases are not even heard. They are important to the Laudato Si Action Platform. We have in the young people becoming very conscious of the meals in their lunch program, and so, how can we look at a more vegetarian diet? So that's taking place. And to be conscious of how our lifestyle impacts those on the global scene. Either we're dealing with the North or the South, and religious communities are key in all of this. So many of these are resources that are there. There are people that say, do something. We got songs, people writing songs to get us moving. And we have, really trees and plants and natural vegetation and caring for the most vulnerable and finding a way to nourish our hearts and our minds. And we want to do this together.
Thanks, Sister Sheila. One of the things I'm going to invite the group to do shortly is just, and you're welcome to start now, is just to put any questions that are coming up for you for Sister Sheila about the Laudato Si Action Platform or any other aspect that's been raised, or a question that you already had before you came along to this session tonight. Please pop them in the chat, and I'll help facilitate those questions to come through. I've been thinking also about just mentioning the Laudato Si Action Platform has sort of multiple levels, as you were suggesting earlier, in all the meetings that you attend and what you're doing. So just to mention, in terms of the enabling infrastructure that you're tapping into with this, is that there's a global steering board, and both Sister Sheila and I are on the global steering board. We became involved with the project from the beginning because in some ways I know the origin of this story pretty well at the Global Catholic Climate Movement when Laudato Si had come out. Not long after, a few of us in that group were talking about how can we support the global church to walk its talk. And so we started to explore a holistic framing for this. And about a year or two later, we were able to get some funding and employ somebody called Laura King, who worked for us for 12 months or so, to look at the sustainability programs around the world and start to design what this could look like for our church. And at the end of 2019, we were gathered in Assisi. We also had the synod on the Amazon. And at that time, we invited Father Josh, and we asked him if he would be willing to take up this initiative of this Laudato Si Action planning. And then not long after that, COVID became a reality for us. And that was seen, the platform planning process was seen as a way of preparing the future. So not preparing for the future, but preparing the future that Pope Francis could see that we need to invest in. So Cardinal Turkson with Father Josh agreed that this action platform would become an initiative of the dicastery. And so we were part of that steering group that came together, and then we broke up into working groups as well. So as Sister Sheila was saying, she is chairing the religious working group. I'm involved also with the education sector, with the university and schools working group. But interestingly, in the context in Australia, everybody needs encouragement and accompaniment on this journey. And recently I've been invited to accompany 4 different religious groups on their journey. So the Sisters of St. Joseph, the Redemptorists, as we're talking about this, the Ursuline Sisters globally, and more recently, Our Lady, the Daughters of Our Lady of the Sacred Heart, have invited me to accompany them on their 7-year journey too. So that feels right in terms of my work as a student with them back in the day. And I'm very happy to support and cross-reference in ways that are going to be most helpful. The sisters, interestingly, through their connection with the MSCs, have come out with a declaration statement that marks, in very practical ways, how they can go forward and what they're committing to under the 7 Laudato Si goals. And I thought that was an excellent resource and one that they're happy to share with others to look at. I'm just wondering what other models might have come forward from the Franciscans, the Jesuits who have signed up, the Salesians, any others that you've got a sense of that might be helpful for our brothers here and the fathers here to have a look at.
We put on the website kind of a sample process for them to look at. And we had one of our webinars when they had given a number. We had at least 33 come in at that time. Now there's, probably close to 75 in terms of their commitments based on their charism. But we've asked when they made a commitment to have it be public and to put it on their website, because we felt that's part of the prophecy from religious congregations that we're asked to do. But also on the Laudato Si Action Platform, when you get to the area of commitment, you have a chance to also load it up there. A number of the religious communities have also then shared that commitment with Cardinal Turkson when he was the prefect of that dicastery, and now they're sharing it with Cardinal Czerny. So that's kind of the piece. So it's like looking at what is it that you hope to do, say you can count on us, and see, well, we're moving into certainly encouraging their enrollment in the Laudato Si Action Platform. And there's 2 things required that they do an assessment. They have a plan and they evaluate that every year and they make their commitment to that process. So there are many to share, but I think the reflection on your charism and your knowledge of what's the needs of your community and your values and how you can carry that forward is really critical. And there's a place to share that in the Laudato Si Action Platform as well.
That's right, because there's that evaluation form process for everyone, whether you're a school or a parish or a diocese or a religious. You can have a look at a very generic but well thought through process. And of course, knowing as we do in Australia, the Redemptorists have properties, and some of them are quite large with leaseholds for farming, and so agriculture comes in, and that intersects with the economy and farms sector of the platform as well. But you would know David Marsh, who's a regenerative farmer near Geelong in Burrawa. He was actually nominated by myself to be part of the Laudato Si Action Platform with the businesses and farms working group. And he's been attending the calls at all sorts of, midnight hours because of the global nature of this work. And he's a fantastic supporter of what you're, looking at with the Geelong side, of course. So that's one aspect in terms of the charism and how that can be lived. And then, of course, Timothy here, Aruna, Tuyen, you're in parishes. You're, doing that great work of being the shepherd of the flock, the parish priest in the context of different suburban settings and rural settings when you go to Kununurra. I mean, that's amazing, Timothy. I'd love to talk with you more about that after this meeting, knowing that part of the world a little bit myself. But, trying to make it relevant then at a parish level is going to be really important for you as Redemptorists. So looking at the resources that are emerging in the parishes, and I should just mention that I've been invited to accompany a few parishes, one in Melbourne, Camberwell and Hyatt have joined together to do this work. another one in, well, a group of them in Canberra, Goulburn, and one more recently here in Sydney. So there are, you know, grassroots changes beginning to take place in some of our parishes that'll be really nice to connect you with. But as Sheila's saying, that's not the starting point. The starting point is your charism. Mm-hmm. So what questions might be coming up for you around how to connect this process of a Laudato Si Action Plan and a platform of resources? Sheila, you were going to say something.
I would say something. I want to use the process my community is now going through. If they had gathered our JPIC International Coordinator, and that's who we've suggested really to kind of be the key person, because they're already involved in many of these issues and have something, something structured in place. So we had a gathering with the sisters and those associated with us to kind of talk about where they wanted to go, led by Sister Beatrice, who is the international coordinator, to really look at in a province area, what kind of a statement could they come out with. And so what's happening with this statement is we're having a general chapter coming up in March. And this has already been shared with the delegates there, but also all of our countries have a contact person for JPIC and have been contributing what they've been doing. So you already see in place, there's a readiness for this embrace of this the movement towards Laudato Si Action Platform. And then as a congregation, and this is what's happening with many of our congregations at that meeting, which is the determining factor for congregations, they're going to be asked to accept this commitment as a congregation, and then to move it out then and to refresh it, because it's already happening, but affirm what's already there and determine a way forward. And I would suggest too, as a Redemptorist, you're with the same aspect to really see. You have Chris, who's their international coordinator. So you have some mechanism, but you can start just in Australia with what you're trying to do as a provincial, keep each other informed. So it's just a relation all the time. It's just relationship and honoring what we've done, and from that moving forward together. Thank you.
Clearly each commitment statement is different. It's different for everyone.
Absolutely, so because it's based on your charism.
Yeah, beautiful. So I might just wrap up our dialogue, Sheila, together now, and thank you so much for everything you've shared. But then there's questions I'm sure coming through. So Bruce, would you be happy if there were a few questions for Sheila at this point, if John or Pat or any of you have any questions? Bruce is nodding.
Yes, certainly. If anybody has a question, if you're on mute, just unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, thanks, Sheila and Jacqui. Look, even in safeguarding that commitment statement, and we had to pull it together through our chapter, and it went back and forth a little bit, and we pulled at it, but in the end, we've sort of agreed. And I think this is something we need, a direction for as well, even if we're not there to live it fully. But it does suggest something about the direction we're going and the commitment that we're progressing towards. Mm-hmm. There's a value in it. Can you talk about the value of commitment?
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter that you're connecting it to who you are, you're trying to do that, and you're saying it publicly, and you say, can we be engaged in it? There's something about a public commitment that you're also holding yourself accountable to, because part of this process is the evaluation every year. And so you're saying to yourself, if it's a commitment, how seriously, have I taken it? And so that's important. And say it doesn't have to it's a directional statement too, as you're saying, John. It's we're on the journey, and we want to see how we're progressing together, because we said that this really matters to us. So you say you made a commitment to this, it's better than saying you just talked about it. Yeah. So yeah, Yeah, and often you have your signatures on it, so you know who signed on this. And this commitment could be made at any level. I mean, we can't say, oh, maybe the Redemptorists as a congregation is not ready to go, but this province is. So we're not holding back. We're going forward because then you're the leaders to help others say this is doable. And you can do it in this way if you choose to do it or adapt it. So thanks for being out there in the front. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's great.
Absolutely. And, you know, this really, in some ways, is the justice, you know, peace, integrity of creation group of the Redemptorists. So it's the perfect group to lead it from the province perspective. And of course, showing that leadership will encourage other provinces, won't it? So it's that beautiful ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. It's through the commission of JPIC that this is launched. It was the endorsement from the commission of the two unions. That's who I represent.
Other questions that might be coming up? What's emerging for you?
I think this is an extraordinary moment that we could gather like this on such important issues for the future. This has been possible, and having Indonesia suddenly appear on our screen is a wonderful step for myself. The oldest here in the group, it gives me great joy to see future and the possibility that's starting here with this knowledge we gather. So Sheila and Jacqui, a big thanks for making all this possible. And Mike, a big welcome to Indonesia.
Yes.
Just Sheila and Jacqui, where's the burnout point in all of this as we're going forward? Is there anything or the processes where we get stuck a little bit more than others that we might need to be aware of as we network and, you know, your phrase is pulling together and, you know, in some ways we get excited, but this is hard. It's hard work, isn't it, as well too? So,
yeah.
Where do we get stuck, or at least what's the insight about where we mostly get stuck on?
Yeah. I think the key is to keep energized, you know, and to try to find a way you can. And also to hold back when something's not clear for you until it gets clear. Okay. So it's not always moving ahead at the same pace. It's respecting the rhythm in yourself. Okay. So we're having, hopefully some of you can join, but we are recording it on the 18th. We're dealing with engaging religious congregations in the Laudato Si Action Platform. We are making this path by walking it. So we are learning through some of the areas that, you know, that we need to be doing some things better. So we have some of those out there who are willing to do that. We also have the group that's waiting back and saying, oh, when you get it all figured out, we will join. Okay, so you have to know your personality, really. But we keep you with us. You know, it's that you're keeping engaged, you're keeping informed, you're not being left behind, but it's at the point when it's clear enough for you to move forward in a way that's respectful for you. So it's so I think that's important, like for us to know that we need to respect where everybody is, as long as everybody knows they want to be a part of this because it's urgent for us. So for you, John, you know, you're just right now, your energy is to say, let's make the connection between this culture of care and this new thing about the environment. How can we do that? So right there, you're helping them not feel, oh, there's one more thing we got to do again. You know, it's not that. It's about how we can be even contributors as religious with the charism of your Redemptorists, dealing with the morality issue, how best to live our lives and move that and come from your strength and knowing we need that contribution. It's not just an add-on, it's essential to how we can do this better. So coming with the fact that you're important that you have something we need to hear to give to us. Is a kind of a starting point. So kind of rest with getting your group together that you can have your strength to then move forward in a way that's will continue to be meaningful and enriching for you on this journey. Okay. Does that help you kind of? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm energized by it, really. So thank you.
Okay. Because we're here to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I heard both of you say was that this is our spiritual contributions need.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's our gift, isn't it?
Yeah. And in Laudato Si, Pope Francis quotes our the Patriarch Bartholomew and saying, it is the spiritual crisis. It's not only what we give up, but what are we giving to? So it's, we need to be offering another way of being by that. So that's that's a movement, when you're doing something for something else, that's what, we have to put something in its place, because we know in the scriptures, if you move out one devil, we get 10 more in there. So we gotta be clear with our planning.
And it really is the dialogue that energizes me, and I see so many people energized by it. But we also, as Sister Sheila was saying, we all have different personalities, and to really acknowledge and respect those, that for those who are deeply contemplative, it's so important to create the spaces and give the time for that to be their contribution to this, because that's essential. For those who are the active doers of practical, get on with it, extrovert networkers, we also need to really appreciate how much of a gift that is to the contribution that you're making. So that real invitation, a warm, open invitation for all of us to go on the journey in a full-hearted, explorative kind of way. But knowing that you're absolutely right, there's already disciplines in the way that you are disciples, that you live, that you emanate. You are doing this. The world needs to see that the habits we have contribute to our habitats. There's something incredibly important about integrating these newer kind of ecological thinking and habits with what you're already doing. It's so out in front for the whole world to see it. So we've just got to keep doing what we do, but sharing it. And I think that's the gift. And starting where all the energy's already been happening. I mean, how long, Father Pat, have we been in dialogue on this topic? It's decades now. And the dialogue that's been happening at the gatherings at Gaylong, and for a long time in all of this, you've been leading it. And I just want to honour that so much and say, this is another step on that journey. It's taking it forward together with many, many others. And Sister Sheila's a gorgeous gift to link us with that. And when you mention Chris, I wonder if there's a stronger link that can be made there. But we've gone over time, Bruce. I'm really sorry that we went a bit over. Thanks for letting us lead this conversation with you, and we're so happy to be dialogue partners, aren't we, Sister Sheila, on the journey?
Yeah. So, thank you very much.
It's great.
Yes,
Thanks.
We look forward to your continued involvement. God bless. Thank you, Jacqui, for all you give. This is wonderful. Thank you. It was a good dialogue. I appreciated your questions and your commentary very much.